All right. Thanks everyone for joining. Welcome to today's CI Tools webinar. This is a weekly session that I run to talk about frequently asked questions about the tools, or to show you new things about the tools, or things that we are thinking about developing for the tools, or things that are already in the tools that we think that a lot of people don't know about. So I just go over a range of things depending on what sort of questions have turned up on support the week before and what sorts of questions I got in the previous week's version of this webinar. It goes for about half an hour or so, usually about 20 minutes, and then time for questions at the end. So hopefully you should be able to watch this during your lunch break and then get back to work straight afterwards. My name is Josh Osborne. I don't know if I mentioned that already. I'm the product manager for the CI Tools here at Central Innovation. I'm in the Auckland office here. And today we are going to be looking at a couple of things to do with coverings. Mainly what we're going to be looking at today is some of the lesser known, lesser used covering options, specifically the column and slab types. And we're also going to look at a couple of new select objects that have either been added recently or will be added soon. So if you have any questions during this session, please just enter them in the questions panel and go to webinar. And then at the end of the session, any of the questions that I have time to go over, I'll go over those. The session will be recorded and will be available on my CI about this time next week. And if you have any questions that you think of later on, just send those through to the support desk, which you can get to by either emailing nz.support@centralinnovation.com or by logging into my CI and going to the My Support section there. Just log a ticket saying, hey, I was at the webinar, I have a question about this thing, or I have a question for next week's webinar or something like that, and that will get through to me and we can cover those off later on if you get to that. I'm going to be using Archicad 24 today. All of the stuff that I'm going to be showing with the coverings applies to pretty much any version of Archicad that there has been as late as about Archicad 12 or so, I think. These tools have been in there. They have looked slightly differently in older versions, obviously, but the functions that you can do with them is roughly similar. And the select objects that I'm going to look at are all new ones. So those elements that have been added in 24 or 25 or will be added soon in those versions. I'll make a note of which ones do which when we get to them. So to start with though, I just wanted to look at the coverings tool. So main reason most people use the coverings tool is for either the wall or the roof coverings. Those are the two most common ways to use that by a long way. It's probably the main reason where if you bought the coverings tool, that's why you bought it. But the coverings tool does cover off a couple of other things as well. And one of those is columns. This is something you probably won't use every day or in every project, but just good to know that it's there. So I'm just going to draw up some columns here. And the same way that you would apply a covering to anything, go into the CI Tools menu, go down to Coverings, and choose the column covering type. And that'll bring up 3 different covering options that we have available here. We've got a column fluting, column footing, and column wrap. So the column fluting will do exactly what it sounds like it would do. You can see it's got the fluting all the way around. It's shown on a rectangular column there, but I think I might have placed round columns. We'll see once I place it anyway. And you can set out all of the dimensions that you might need to from here. So you've got plenty of control over how much it flares out at the base, what size the flutes are and all that sort of thing. And you can also offset the top and base. At the moment this is set to 0, so it's going to be all the way to the top and all the way to the bottom, but you can make it have an offset a certain amount from the top or the bottom. This one's set to do both and they're both set to 0, but you could set it to offset just off the base or just off the top. And you can see the appearance there. Not a lot else to the tool. It's nice and simple. It just lets you put your fluting on, set up the fluting the way that you want it to be drawn, and then go for it. So if I hit OK now, it's going to place that accessory. And you can see we've got fluting on all three of our columns now. So it just makes it nice and quick and easy if you are in a situation where you need to put fluting on your columns. The next one is the column footing, which you can see we're using square columns there, so I'm just going to set it to a rectangular profile, and it works pretty much the same way you expect it to as well, just a small amount of settings here to control just the bits that you need. So these are much less complex than the wall and roof coverings, obviously, because that's as much detail as you do need. But we've got control over the parts that you would want to, and if you change to round, you can set the things that you would need to there. So we've got the height and the diameter, and then the distance between the column and the covering there. And then if I hit OK, you'll see it places a footing on this one. So it just makes it nice and easy to put footings on all your columns. Just select the whole lot, apply the column covering, and then away you go. And the last one is the column wrap. This one's a little bit more complex looking because it allows you to do quite a lot of different things. So you can see here we've got different profile selections here. So the options are the normal things that you would expect, so the fillet and chamfer, and then we've got the concave kind of scoop, and the rebate option here, and then the same again for the lower edges, or you can just leave them square. And once you select anything from here, you can change the parameters for them. You can also change the way that the wrap works. So you can see we've got rectangular, but there's cut rectangular, circular, and various other options, including a however many edges you want option. So you can go through there and set it out however you need it to look. Hit OK, and then it will apply that. Sorry, my zoom is overrunning a little bit there. So you can see it's done the kind of scooped concave on the top, as we asked it to, and the convex on the bottom, and you can go through and change these to match whatever you want them to. So if we go cut rectangular, you'll see that goes through and changes that. So this is quite useful if you're wanting to achieve something like this. You can configure it pretty much however you want. Do I have it selected? Pretty much however you want to make that work as well. So that's the column accessories. As I say, it's not something you'll use in every project probably, but it can just be a nice way of adding footings to all of your columns if you have columns already, decorating columns that you need to. Say if you've got like a letterbox or something like that and you want to put fancy pole on it, you can use that. And the fluting obviously is for doing fluted columns if you've got those in your project. Just saves you a bit of hassle if you are doing those things. Now, the other covering type that you may be aware of is the slab covering. There's two types of slab covering. I'm just going to draw up a slab here so you can see it. Usually when I demo the coverings tool, if I have time, I show the decking covering. So before I get to that one, I'll just quickly show you so you apply this the same way as you would with any covering. I'll just quickly show you the other option, which is the precast slab option. And so that will let you apply something that traces the shape of the element that you have selected, like a covering would, and it lets you put precast structure underneath. So at the moment we have single T selected, but there's options for double, hollow core, unispan, and interspan here. And if you cycle through those, you get the options that you would expect. So I'll just apply a single T for now so that you can see how it works. So I do that and you can see it's applied something there. And if I jump to 3D, you can now see that our slab has these nice precast profiles on there, and they have taken the shape of the slab. And because they are like the coverings for anything else, if I now modify this slab, they will immediately update. Update the precast covering to trace that shape as well. You can see that we've got lines separating each individual piece, which is what you were seeing in the floor plan view here. and the hidden detail line is showing the shape of that T there. And we can go back in and we can set it to any of these other options as well. And the settings that you would expect for the shape of each thing is available here. So we've got lots of control over the various parts of it here, and then some extra controls for the hollow core for the number of holes and the sizing of those holes as well. And you can set the building materials for them as well while you're here. That's all of the settings for those, apart from the attributes. I just click that one, that's going to make that change. So again, it just makes for a nice 3D element for your precast bits there, which means that not only will you see them in 3D if you want to do that, but it means that if you cut a section through your building, you will see the precast slab being cut through and showing the detail properly there. So that's the precast slab covering, and then the other one is the decking, which goes up on top of the slab instead of on the bottom, and that literally just lets you do decking. So the options are flat or reeded, and you can choose what kind of grooves you want to use if you are using the reeded profile. You can set out everything the way that you want it to and what color you want it to be, and then hit OK. And again, same as all of the other coverings, it takes the shape of whatever it's attached to, and you can see in this case it's made some nice 3D decking all the way across this slab. So you can see each board is separated, the grooves are drawn in, and all of that. So it will look good in 3D if you get close enough to it. There's a little bit too much fine detail to see it from a distance, but if you do get close, you'll see that. And of course, if you cut a section through, you will see all of that detail there as well. So that is the sort of hidden gems coverings elements. We've got the 3 different types of column covering and the 2 different types of slab covering, decking on top or precast slab on the bottom. All right, so the next thing I wanted to show was some things with the Select library. So the Select library is the library of sort of handy objects that we make that, that we make available to select customers in New Zealand and Australia, and for CI Tools premium subscribers for everywhere else in the world. So that's just a library of objects that we've made over the years. We've got at the moment, we have about 800 objects in the library. And we have recently added a few more to it. So that's what I wanted to show you today. So the first one that I wanted to show, I'm just going to go into my object tool. And I'll find my select library. First one that I wanted to show is the fire safety fire escape route object. This is one that's been requested by a few people, and essentially what it is, it's just a nice, quick and easy way for you to draw up an fire escape route, and it will show you the occupancy that will be allowed by that, the total length and that sort of thing. So it's almost, to me, it's kind of like the tracking curve, but for people. But I'm just going to select this and place it down first. And once I do place it, you'll see this is how it looks in your floor plan view. So we've got this little rectangle, which is the path at the moment. You can see that this one is 2,000 long and 850 wide. And we've got this little stamp that gets attached to it saying a name for the path. This is the default name, the occupancy number, and the length of the path. So it's 2 meters at the moment. And now I can just grab hold of this purple hotspot here. I can stretch it out to wherever I need to. So now we're 4,400 long. Then I can grab this node here, and I'm going to add an edge in. Let's go here. Shorten that back. Add another edge. Let's go off at 90 degrees. And I'll stretch that one out. So let's say that's our path that we want to follow. So you can see we've got our 3 lengths all being shown on each sort of leg of the path, and then the total path length is shown here. So nice and easy to draw up, obviously, and it's labeled so that it shows you the important details for this sort of thing. And if I go into the settings, you can see we've got control over most of what we're seeing here. So you can see I've got a 3D view here, which we'll look at shortly, but we have controls over the settings for the path type here. That's the name that it was showing there. We've got options to classify it as accessible or intermediate. And if I change to accessible, you can see that as soon as I do that, changes the widths. And if I change to intermediate floor, you can't immediately see what's happened here, but when you use that option, it's going to change the path multiplier here. And then the occupancy level here, which is N, is set to 50 by default. You can set that to whatever you need it to be. We've got some controls over how the symbol works. So this one's going right to left at the moment, and it's closed at one end and open at the other, but you can make that whatever you want. You can turn the label on and off. You can set the path width manually or using the rules here. So at the moment you can see it's maximum width of 850, and then the N value, which is 50 for us, times 7. And the same option for the stairs if you're doing that. Settings for the path height here as well, which is going to be taken into account in the bits of 3D that we saw, and then those multipliers for the length. So I'm just going to leave those as is for now, and let's have a look at it in 3D. Whoops. Let's show that in 3D. So you can see the path that I traced is being drawn up. And I've got purple hotspots at the ends, at each end of the path. So I can click on those, and like you probably would expect, that will let you adjust the length of each end. So you can click and drag that to wherever you want. But one of the things that you'll likely want to do is you'll want to make it be able to go up and down. So say if there's bits of stairs involved or something like that, go back into the settings here. And at the moment you can see up at the top of our settings, we've got this control here called Editing and Plan View. And it's currently set to edge length and direction. So that was, as we saw before, that was setting the length of each part of the path and the direction of each path. But let's change to vertex position instead, and that's going to let us choose the actual, just move the actual point around. So if I hit OK on that, it looks much the same in 3D, but now if I grab one of these purple hotspots, you'll see that I can drag it on the Z-axis now. So I can move that up by however much I need to, and then you can also move the other end down. So now it's reflecting in 3D properly to take into account whatever we needed it to. And if I go back to my floor plan, you'll see that we now have changed a little bit. Our widths have gone out to 1 meter. That was based on the rules we had set in the settings, and the path length of it has increased. And the reason for that is because obviously they are moving diagonally on the Z-axis now, so they are not just what you see on floor plans. So this one's 4542 long, but it's showing 5451, so it is able to take into account the actual length in 3D space rather than just the length in floor plan. So you can make these fit to whatever you need them to, and then the value that you get for the path length will reflect that properly. So it just makes it easier to calculate that number rather than having to go around and measure it. Especially if it's on an angle, if it's going up or down, that can get quite tricky. So this just looks after it for you. So that one's that object is already available for Archicad 25 customers. If you grab the select library from there, this object is already in there for you. We will be releasing it for 24 soon as well. So that's the fire escape route. One of the other new objects that we added is this one here. It's just called Extruded Profile. And this is just it's a nice, fairly straightforward object just to fill a certain need that you quite often want to do, and you don't want to have to mess around with doing a lot of complex things to make this. Essentially, it just makes a shape of something and then stretches it out in 3D. So you can see at the top here, not many settings, so it's nice and simple to work with. We've got control over what the profile is. So you may recognize this list that's popped up as your list of profiles in your Archicad project. So depending on what your project is, this list will look different. I'm just using the default Archicad 24 template, so that's everything that's there. So you can go through and choose the profile that you want to use, or obviously make your own profile. I am going to, yeah, let's go with the wooden rail. So I'm going to choose that option. You can then rotate the profile if you need to. That's actually looking correct for me at the moment, but if you had one that was on its side and you wanted it the right way around, you can use that there. You can choose to override the attributes if you want to, so go to custom and set those to what you want. I think I will actually do that. I'll make this white as it is and leave those pens as they are. We've got controls over what to do with the path. If the path touches at each end, what should it do? We'll see how you modify that shortly. Control about how the edges work, and then how the end cuts work as well. So I'll leave those as they are because I don't want to mess with that just yet. And I'll hit OK, and I'll place this down in floor plan. And now if I go and have a look, you'll see it's it's pretty much exactly what you'd expect it to look like. Not particularly unusual yet, but you can see that when I have it selected, I've got purple hotspots on here, which always means that we can do something fun usually. So I'll just select it and show it in 3D so you can see what we're dealing with. So you can see it has taken that profile that we selected and it has stretched it out in a straight line. And I'm going to do my editing in 3D because that's more fun. So if I select this path now, you can see that those purple hotspots that we saw on floor plan, they're here too. So I'll move around until I'm sort of looking at it from the top. Then I'm going to grab this middle hotspot. I'm just going to pull it out like this. And as soon as I do that, as you would expect with, say, a polyline or something, it adds in an extra node and then stretches everything out to meet in the place where you clicked it to. So as you can see, this just makes a really nice and easy to draw and manipulate movable extruded shape. We can then go and grab one of these parts and stretch it down so it can be bent in the Z-axis as well as the X and Y axes. So you should be able to go through and using this, probably for this profile, we want to make a stair or something like that, use that to go through and match it up to whatever it needs to match onto. So you could use it for handrails, you could use it for moldings on walls, you could use it for all sorts of things. Depending on what profiles you have available to you or what you want to draw, you can make it pretty much match whatever you need it to just by drawing it up and then moving your nodes so that it fits what you want it to. And obviously the nodes are there in floor plan as well. So if you want to more accurately snap it to elements or something like that, you can do that easily too. So yeah, just a nice and simple, simple to use, but very effective and very useful object. And that one is also available in the Archicad 25 library already and will be coming to 24 soon as well. Now the last one is one that is not released at all, in fact, although, sorry, what I should say is that it is released already, but it has recently been enhanced and we have not yet released the enhancement. I just wanted to show you this so that you can see what we've been working on, what's going to be coming out soon, and also if you have any feedback about how it works, that would be great to hear as well. And what it is a zone stamp. You might already use the zone stamp that we're going to show here, which is the one, and it shows you the lengths of each edge that are being used. You can drag it out so that it shows those all the way around the zone. Quite handy for showing easily the sizes of zones at a glance. And recently we've updated it a little bit so that it automates that process. So I'm just going to draw up a room, draw up something a little unusual so that it has something to work with. and then I'm going to place a zone. Now before I do that, I need to go and set the zone to use this stamp. So I'm going to go to my options, choose my zone that I want to modify. Let's go with 01, and I'll change it to zone stamp 1940, which, as you might be able to tell by the number, it's been there for a while, but it has been recently updated. And you can see this is exactly what it looks like currently. If you already have this in 23 or 24, this is what you already see. So you can see it's showing the length of each edge there, and then a sort of an area display there like that. So I'm just going to choose that zone stamp and hit OK. And then with my zone tool, just make sure that that's the zone that I've selected. And then I'm going to click to place this, and then click to place my label. And you can see that, contrary to the one that you already have, it has automatically gone and moved all of those edges of the zone stamp out, so that we're already seeing a completely accurate edge dimension on each edge of that zone. And then also the stamp itself shows that nice rounded down 7x6 meter display as well, so that you've got that as well. If you want that, you can switch that off. And now we can go through and we can change the dimensions of this. Oops, I need to suspend my groups there. Change the dimensions of this room. Let's go like that. Then we will update our zones. If I can remember where the zone update button is. Here we are. Update our zones. And you can see once we do that, that the stamp fails to catch up with that. And this is where the one of the other new pieces comes in, and that is that once you've done this, we just need to give the zone a little reminder that the stamp needs to update as well. So what we'll do here is we'll go to the CI Tools menu and go down to CI Select. Now you won't have this yet. This is one of the new things that we're working on. But at the moment, it has just this one option called Update Zone Polygons. And if I hit that, it will automatically update that zone polygon. And now we have a nice and back up to date stamp, which is showing those edge dimensions all the way around. And it has fixed up its area display as well. So that one there is going to be, it's already available obviously in its current state, but the new version, which is automated, will be released sometime soon for Archicad 25, once we have the CI tools ready for Archicad 25, and then Archicad 24 will follow that as well. So if that looks interesting, or if you have any ideas about how we could modify that a little or anything before we get to a release, that would be much appreciated as well. But if you do have any other questions, enter those now. We've still got, oh, it's 1:30 already. We've got a couple of minutes if anybody had any questions, but otherwise we might finish up for now. Yeah, looks like that's it for now. But thanks for joining, everyone. As I say, those the first two are already available in 25, and the last one there, the updated zone stamp, that's coming soon. So grab the select library for 25. If you are using 25, you can see those other two there already. And if you have trouble finding where they are, just search for the name instead, and that'll get you to the right place. It's also mentioned in the documentation for the select library, so you can find them that way as well. But thanks for joining, everyone. And if you do think of any other questions that you want to ask, just send them through and I'll cover those off in the next session.